have we got?
Mr Speaker, I have regular discussions with the Chancellor and Treasury Ministers on a wide range of issues, including the cost of living. This Labour government is on the side of working people, and it's why we've already taken action by increasing the national minimum wage and the national living wage for 160,000 workers across Wales. We've frozen fuel duty and extended the warm homes discount. There is more to do. We're determined to put more money into people's pockets right across Wales.
Dave Dougan.
A century of Labour taking the people of Wales for granted came crashing down last week with the sensational victory of Plaid's Lindsay Whittle in Caerphilly, with Labour reduced to third place. And why would anybody accept any more Labour as Labour's cost of living soars, as Labour's Westminster perma crisis deepens, and as 700,000 people in Wales live under Labour's poverty prospectus? So she won't say what she's going to speak to the Chancellor about, but does she think the Chancellor is ready or willing to help the people of Wales? Because the people of Wales feel abandoned by Labour over the last 5 decades.
I'm not sure whether the honourable member has ever been to Caerphilly or even to Wales, but if he has, that's good. If he hasn't, he needs to be careful about what he's saying about the people in Wales. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So absolutely does not know what he talks about. And his party's record in Scotland is nothing to boast about. And nationalists will divide the United Kingdom, costing Wales £21.5 billion every single year.
Chair of the committee, Ruth Jones.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I welcome the news last month that Newport City Council and Caerphilly County Borough Council both received £21.5 million each from the UK Labour Government Pride in Place scheme. This funding will empower communities across my constituency of Newport West and Isloyn to invest in community assets, their local high streets, drive local growth and create jobs, thus reducing the cost of living. So does the Secretary of State agree with me that at last in Wales we have 2 Labour governments delivering for the people of Wales?
The Chair of the Welsh Affairs Select Committee is absolutely right. Our Pride in Place programmes, the Local Growth Fund, the City and Growth Deals, the investment zones and our free ports are all the result of having 2 Labour governments working together for the benefit of everyone across Wales. And taken together, they will boost the economy, draw in further investment, create thousands of jobs and raise living standards across Wales. They demonstrate this government's commitment to growth, practical, visible, long-term investment that empowers local communities and delivers real benefits for them.
And Davies.
Question number 4, please, Speaker.
Mr Speaker, overhead lines are much cheaper to build. Undergrounding costs an estimated 4.5 times more than overhead lines, according to the Institution of Engineering and Technology. Overhead lines are also quicker to build, cause less environmental damage and are much easier to maintain. The cost of building this infrastructure is borne by electricity bill payers, and Plaid's policy on undergrounding will not only increase bills, but suffocate the economic potential of Wales's green industrial revolution.
Davies.
Diolch, Mr Llefarydd. My constituency is the location of 2 major infrastructure projects, a 97-kilometre and a 60-kilometre network of pylons along several hundred, 248 actually, 230-metre tall wind turbines. The cumulative impact of these projects is significant, occupying land that could support other development, and it remains unclear whether they will lower electricity bills or improve electricity connectivity for local households nor businesses. What discussions has the Secretary of State had with the Welsh Government to ensure that these projects deliver genuine benefits for our communities?
I heard what the Honourable Lady said, but we do have a policy to ensure that communities who host clean energy infrastructure can directly benefit. The new Community Funds Guidance aims to improve the consistency in the amount of funding for communities that could be used towards local projects. And on bill discounts, we're introducing a scheme which will provide household discounts to those living closest to new and significantly upgraded transmission infrastructure projects.
Henry Tufton.
Mr Speaker, I like my constituency neighbour, and Plaid want to be taken seriously as a party of government, but they fail to recognise the importance that renewable energy will play. Does the Secretary of State agree with Renewable Cymru, who recently concluded that Plaid's approach will cost jobs and investment in communities like mine in Pembrokeshire.
Labour is the only party that is committed to investing in renewable energy, energy that will bring down bills, create thousands of jobs for people right across Wales. Plaid and Reform are against renewable infrastructure. Plaid and the SNP don't want nuclear. Their economy spokesperson, Plaid's economy spokesperson in the Senedd, is anti-nuclear. They're happy to see people pay higher bills, they're happy to spurn investment, and they're happy to see job opportunities slashed.
David Chadwick, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. During the Second World War, over 200 people were forced to leave their homes and give up their land in the Epint, when more than half the community was taken for use by the Ministry of Defence. And the people of the Epint understood why that sacrifice had to be made. But now, Butte Energy and their wealthy investment backers want to take the rest of the Epint. Does the Secretary of State agree that the Epint has already sacrificed enough? And will she work with me to defend the Welsh countryside from once again having its wealth extracted from it with no benefit to local communities?
It sounds like the Liberal Democrats in Wales have the same position as Plaid Cymru. Our priority is to drive growth, lower bills and create jobs through our new green energy revolution, and that includes people in his constituency. Investment in his constituency should be something that he should be welcoming.
Rebecca Smith.
Number 5, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
We inherited a broken asylum system in absolute chaos from the party opposite, with tens of thousands stuck in the system, dependent on expensive asylum hotels. We are committed to ending the use of hotels as asylum accommodation as soon as possible and before the end of this Parliament as part of a controlled, managed and orderly programme.
Rebecca Smith.
Under the Welsh Labour government, waiting lists, educational standards and opportunities for young people have all ground to an abrupt halt. It is shocking, therefore, that the Labour Welsh government isn't prioritising these issues, which would make a real difference to the people of Wales. Instead, Labour ministers supported by Plaid Cymru are ploughing tens of millions of pounds into its nation of sanctuary policy that is believed to support services for some illegal immigrants. Does the Honourable Lady agree with me it is high time her colleagues scrapped this wasteful, non-devolved policy and instead focus their time on lowering NHS waiting times and improving standards in Glasgow?
It sounds like the member opposite doesn't agree with welcoming the thousands of Ukrainian refugees which the UK government's nation of sanctuary has largely supported, and that has been used to welcome Ukrainian families fleeing from Russian aggression, a cause which I understood her party supported.
Chris Evans.
Mr. Speaker, can I associate myself with the remarks of the Leader of Plaid Cymru and paying tribute to Hefin David, my friend and colleague. I will say this, he was an amazing representative for Wales and a real warrior for those who found themselves neurodivergent or on the margins of society. I'm also delighted, Mr. Speaker, that Caerphilly is so popular today. It seems so many people only visited the constituency several times, or not at all, have only read about it in the press, have become experts about my constituency. And I am also pleased that the Minister raised today the plight of the Ukrainians, because if there is who came to Wales and seek sanctuary running from war. Because if there was one downside to that by-election, it was the talk of asylum seekers being bad people, that they're all illegal, they don't contribute to anything. And I say to those people, come and see the exhibition that was on in Caerphilly Council and see what they contributed, and what message does the Minister have for those Ukrainians who are still seeking asylum in Wales.
Minute.
Thank you. We offer sanctuary for those who desperately need it, and we are proud of that. But we inherited a broken system from the party opposite, contracts that are inherited. Hotel use since the last election has nearly halved, and we have removed 30,000 people who have no right to be here, ensuring that those who do need to be here do have the welcome and support that they need. This is not job done, but work in progress. Compare that to the last 14 years of the Tory government.
Mims Davies, Shadow Secretary of State.
So after wantonly scrapping the Rwanda scheme, the Labour government is now overseeing record-breaking figures of illegal immigrants and reported the scandal was now engulfing North Wales, where more than 200 illegal immigrants tried to gain entry to the country on ferries from Dublin to Holyhead. Meanwhile, Penelli military camp in southwest Wales was previously condemned by Labour Welsh government. It appears their current policy, along with reforms, is from boats to barracks, which is happening in Scotland and Sussex. Yet Plaid say that there is no such thing as illegal immigration. Can the Minister agree with me that both her government and Plaid have no idea or interest in how to make our borders safe?
I feel the party opposite forgets about the chaos that they created. We have inherited a broken system, inherited from 14 years of chaos, in contracts that we have to honour from the last government. But in the last year, we have halved the use of hotels. We have removed 30,000 people who have no right to be here. This is not job done, as I say, but it is work in progress, and compare that work in just 1 year to 14 years of chaos under her party's government.
Catherine Brooks.
Question number 6, Mr. Speaker.
From bench number 6, Minister.
We are investing at least £445 million into Welsh Rail to right years of underfunding by previous governments. This will mean new stations, more and faster trains along the key lines, improve cross-border connectivity, create jobs and boost economic growth.
I thank the Minister for the investment of £445 million, which will be a fundamental driver of economic growth and connectivity in South Wales. What actions is the Minister taking with Cabinet colleagues and industry partners to ensure that a new station serving my constituents in Megra and Undy will be delivered without delay, getting my constituents on track and faster towards their destinations?
Yeah. I thank my honourable friend. She has been a strong champion for this rail investment, which is key to unlocking Wales's economic potential. This includes funding to progress the 5 burn stations in Cardiff East, Newport West, Somerton, Llanwern, Magor and Undy. I will continue to work with the Welsh Rail Board, Welsh Government, to ensure the communities she represents get the infrastructure that they need.
Asper Brandrett.
The huge economic potential of both the northwest of England and North Wales is being held back by poor rail infrastructure. The last Conservative government committed to at least £1 billion to upgrade and electrify the railway lines from Crewe and Warrington through Chester into North Wales. This Labour government has scrapped those transformational plans at a time when economic growth is a priority. Will she seek to reinstate the vital rail infrastructure investment in the Mersey-Dean North Wales region?
Well, that money just didn't exist. And we are investing a historic £445 million into Welsh Rail to right years of underfunding by previous governments and unleashing Wales' economic potential. This will mean new stations, faster trains on key lines and connecting people, well-paid and better jobs right across Wales. 2 governments working in partnership to deliver for the people of Wales.
Before we come to Prime Minister's questions, can I welcome in the gallery the Honourable Speaker of the Parliament of Sri Lanka and his delegation. We now come to questions to Prime Minister Nick Smith.
Number 1, please, Mr. Speaker.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the scenes of destruction emerging from Jamaica are truly shocking. Both the Foreign Secretary and I have been in close contact with our Jamaican counterparts in recent days to offer the UK's full support. Mr. Speaker, I can update the House that HMS Trent and specialist rapid deployment teams are pre-positioned in the region, and we stand ready to provide humanitarian support. Mr. Speaker, Awab Ishaq died 5 years ago from a respiratory condition caused by exposure to black mould in his flat in Rochdale. He was just 2 years old. No child should grow up without the safety and security of a decent home. For far too long, millions of people have lived at the mercy of rogue landlords and insecure contracts. Labour is ending that. Despite the best efforts of the Tories and Reform who voted against it, our Renters' Rights Act is now law, including Awab's law. Fighting for working people, that's the difference a Labour government makes. And on that issue, Mr. Speaker, this government has secured the biggest deal to manufacture Typhoon fighter jets in this country for almost 20 years. We secured that deal because the UK is back as a leading and trusted member of NATO. A timely reminder for the Green Party, whose policy is to take us out of NATO, the Putin-friendly Reform Party, who would have no standing with NATO, and for the leader of the opposition, you don't win NATO deals by not turning up to NATO summits. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Nick Smith.
Mr. Speaker, can I associate myself with the Prime Minister's remarks about supporting Jamaica? Across our country and in Blaenau Gwent and Rumney, off-road bikers are a menace. They tear up our environment and turn our streets into racetracks. After years of Tory cuts, Gwent police are tackling this now. So does the Prime Minister agree with me that police forces and communities like mine are seeing the difference that Labour can make in power?
Well, I share my honourable friend's determination that everyone feels safe and secure in their community. Neighbourhood policing was decimated by the party opposite, and we're restoring it with 3,000 extra officers by spring. We're also giving them the powers, Mr. Speaker, they need, including tough new respect orders that allow the police to seize and destroy vehicles within 48 hours. The Tories walked through the lobbies with Reform in voting against our crime and policing bill.
The opposition, Kemi Byrne.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last year, in its manifesto, Labour promised not to increase income tax, not to increase national insurance, and not to increase VAT. Does the Prime Minister still stand by his promises?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm glad that the Leader of the Opposition is now finally talking about the economy. I can update the House, Mr. Speaker. Retail sales are higher than expected. Inflation is lower than expected. Growth has been upgraded this year. And, Mr. Speaker, the UK stock market is at an all-time high. The budget is on the 26th of November, and we will lay out our plans. But I can tell the House now that we will build a stronger economy, we will cut NHS waiting lists and deliver a better future for our country.
Well, Mr. Speaker. Yes. What a fascinating answer. It is not the same answer that I received when I asked exactly the same question, word for word, on the 9th of July. Then the Prime Minister replied with just one word, yes, and then he sat down with a smug grin on his face. What's changed in the past 4 months?
Mr. Speaker, as she well knows, no Prime Minister or Chancellor will ever set out their plans in advance. But, Mr. Speaker, I can say this, Mr. Speaker, because the figures on the productivity review that's being undertaken, this is a judgment on their record in office. Those figures are now coming through, and they confirm that the Tories did even more damage to the economy than we previously thought. Now, we will turn that around. We've already delivered the fastest growth in the G7 in the first half of this year. 5 interest rate cuts in a row. Trade deals with the US, EU and India. They broke the economy. We're fixing it.
Mr. Speaker, he says no Prime Minister or Chancellor will say these things before the budget. Has he told his Chancellor? Because she's been out there flying kites, causing constant speculation around the budget that is damaging the economy. All week, they've been briefing about tax rises. What we've heard is that he does not have a plan. So we have some ideas for him. Yes. Yesterday, they can... Yes. Mr. Speaker, it's quite clear that they need some ideas. Yes. of the House, we believe in scrapping taxes on family homes. Yesterday, we voted to abolish stamp duty. They voted against it. Even the Deputy Prime Minister, or the former Deputy Prime Minister, who resigned in disgrace for not paying stamp duty, voted to keep it. So, Mr. Speaker, I will remind them, on this side of the House, we know that abolishing stamp duty is how we get young people on the housing ladder and get the economy growing. So why won't he scrap this terrible tax?
Why didn't they do it then in 14 years in office? Mr. Speaker, as I said, the productivity review figures are now coming in, and they show the true extent of the damage that they did. And she asked us to take advice from them. We all know these figures are coming out. We all know that austerity damaged the economy on their watch. The botched Brexit deal damaged the economy on their watch. Liz Truss's mini-budget damaged the economy on their watch. So we'll take no lectures or advice from them on the economy. They won't be trusted on the economy for generations to come. And, Mr. Speaker, that's why at our budget, I can be clear, there will be no return to austerity. That's what broke the country. No return to the instability of their mad borrowing spree, and we'll end the unfairness and low growth that squeeze living standards for working people. That's the path to national renewal.
Mr. Speaker, Conservatives reduced the deficit every year until the pandemic. We more than doubled the personal allowance. We left 4 million more jobs than we found from Labour. We brought inflation down to 2%. It's nearly double.
Mr. Tufnell, you're in my sights. The pantomime season has arrived, so don't start it too early.
Mr. Speaker, on our record, we brought inflation down to 2%. It has doubled under him. We left him the fastest growing economy in the G7. It is no longer. The truth is, they have no ideas. We're giving them some. There is another way to get growth. It's cutting welfare spending and getting people into work. Last month, I offered to work cross-party with him to bring down welfare spending, because he knows, and we know, that he'd rather dip into people's pockets than upset those people behind him. Instead of tax rises, will he work with us to find a way to cut welfare spending and get Britain working again?
Mr. Speaker, she talks about their record. Let's go through it. They crashed the economy. Inflation went up to 11%. Mortgages went through the roof. Welfare spending went up £33 billion on them, and they want to give us advice. And they reduced the UK to a laughing stock. Because of our budget, Mr. Speaker, waiting lists have come down, wages are up, mortgage rates are down, and other countries want to do deals with us. Just on Monday of this week, the Turkish government signed an £8 billion deal for typhoons. Earlier this year, the Norway government a £10 billion for frigates. That is because of the budget that we passed, fixing the mess that they left.
Mr. Speaker, it's not because of the budget that he passed. I started that deal back in January 2024. But and I welcome it. There are some things, Mr. Speaker, it's got nothing to do with their budget. We're lucky it's still happening. So I welcome the £8 billion deal that he's done with Turkey, but I will remind him that just last month, his Chancellor borrowed £20 billion. He'll have to sell a hell of a lot more jets to make up for that. And he won't rule out any tax rises. He can't cut spending. He is increasing unemployment. This man knows nothing about economic growth except how to destroy it. In his weakness, Mr. Speaker, he has caved into the unions with their regulations that will cripple businesses, costing them £5 billion every year. Yes, please do speak up, because I want every single business out there to hear Labour MPs heckling when we talk about the damage that they are doing. So I ask the Prime Minister, how on earth can he consider adding more burdens for these firms to deal with?
Mr. Speaker, she's overlooked the fact that we had the highest growth in the G7 the first 6 months of this year, and that growth's just been upgraded. 3 interest rate cuts. Mr. Speaker, we're not going to take lessons from them. She's now introduced what I understand to be, I think she calls it a golden economic rule, this golden rule that she's now putting forward, very golden. £47 billion, Mr. Speaker, of unspecified spending cuts, with no detail whatsoever. Mr. Speaker, let me put that in context. That would be 85,000 fewer nurses, 234,000 fewer teachers, or cutting every police officer in the country twice over. No wonder the Institute for Government said she's on shaky foundations. That's exactly what caused the problem in the first place.
Mr. Speaker, the fact that he has to stand there and make stuff up just shows what kind of Prime Minister he is. We had an itemised list. We had an itemised list of 47 billion. 23 billion was on welfare spending, which I asked him to work with us to cut. He refuses to do so. All he knows how to do is tax, tax, tax. If you work, they tax you more. If you save, they tax you more. If you buy a home, they tax you more. None of these taxes were in the manifesto, which he had 4 years to prepare. Mr. Speaker, he is raising taxes because he is too weak to control spending. He's blaming us, he's blaming the OBR. Last week they were blaming Brexit. Isn't the truth that with this Prime Minister, it's always someone else's fault?
They were kicked out of office because they broke the economy. They won't be trusted for years to come. She can't tell us what her position is on the last budget, and she's got a phantom £47 billion with no foundation as we go forward. That's exactly the mess that they caused. They've not changed one bit. Meanwhile, we're fixing their mess. 5 million extra NHS appointments, 5 interest rate cuts, growth and wages up. That's a change the Labour government makes.
Jeff Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As Palestinians try and rebuild their lives amid the rubble of Gaza, last night, once again, dozens of innocent people were killed by Israeli airstrikes. What will the UK do, along with our international partners, to hold the Netanyahu government to account for its actions? And what more can we do to ensure that aid gets in, as the IDF blocks aid in breach of both the peace agreement and international law?
Well, I thank him for raising this, and I'm deeply concerned, Mr. Speaker, by the strikes, and that underlines the fragility of the ceasefire deal. All sides need to uphold President Trump's peace plan. It is the only route to long-term peace for Israelis and Palestinians. We are, of course, in close touch with the US and regional allies, pushing for de-escalation. Mr. Speaker, the scale of destruction in Gaza is unimaginable. The immediate priority remains getting aid in at the speed and the volume needed. Thank you.
We come to the Leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I associate myself with what the Prime Minister said about Jamaica and indeed all those islands and countries affected by Hurricane Melissa? Our thoughts and prayers are with all those affected. And I'm sure the whole House will want to join me in paying tribute to Prunella Scales, Mr. Speaker. I suspect I'm not the only member of the House with a Fawlty Towers DVD box set. She will be greatly missed. Mr. Speaker, across Europe, in countries like Poland, Germany and France, we've seen evidence of dangerous Russian interference in their politics. Last month, the former leader of a major party in Wales pleaded guilty to taking bribes to make pro-Russian statements. The evidence shows Nathan Gill was a close confidant of the current Reform Party leader for years. So does the Prime Minister agree with me that it's time we had an in-depth investigation into Russian meddling and money in British politics?
Joining his comments on Prunella Scales, and on this question of Russian interference, it is a serious problem in countries across Europe, including in our country, where it's a constant threat. And Mr. Speaker, for NATO allies, the conflict in Ukraine and dealing with Russian aggression is the #1 issue. And that is why I have to say the Reform Party would be an absolute disaster for our defence. We are a trusted member of NATO. We wouldn't be a trusted member if we were Putin-friendly. We are leading the coalition of the willing, giving security and comfort to 30 other countries that will collapse under reform because they're Putin-friendly, and it'd be a real threat to our defence and our security.
Sir Ed Davey.
Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful for the Prime Minister's reply and I agree with him on Ukraine, but I do hope he will look at an investigation into this Russian interference in our politics. Mr. Speaker, last week I questioned how he can accept the damage of Brexit while refusing to do anything meaningful about it. The damage is clear, with the Financial Times reporting that lower productivity growth alone has blown a £20 billion black hole in the public finances, just part of the Brexit black hole that Conservatives and Reform will not apologise for. Last week, he rejected my plan for a new customs union. So can I ask him what action he will take to change the Brexit deal, or is he just planning to complain about it?
Well, he must have overlooked the fact that there was a UK-EU summit earlier this year in which there were 10 strands to the change that we've already agreed in relation to relationship with the EU, including closer trading relationships, including closer work on defence and security, and that is an iterative process that we will continue into next year. But he's absolutely right about the botched deal of the last government, the damage that's done to our economy, and we're just seeing some of the figures coming through in relation to that. That's one of the reasons, or one of the factors behind the way they crashed the economy.
Jonathan Brash.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Football is a game based on fairness, yet brilliant clubs that unite communities every week, like Hartlepool, are being held back by a fundamental unfairness. The 3 Up campaign, backed by 72 National League clubs, including Hartlepool United, and championed by Hartlepool legend Jeff Stelling, seeks to grant a 3rd promotion place from the National League to League 2. This simple change will be transformational for these historic clubs, many of which are over a century old. Now, while I accept Arsenal may never directly benefit from such a change, does the Prime Minister agree that this campaign to put football first would help the new football regulator protect club heritage, ensure stability and put fairness and fans back at the heart of our game?
Well, can I start by wishing Hartlepool United the best for this season? He will appreciate the structure of the leagues is a matter for leagues themselves, but I do commend his campaign and everything that he's putting behind it. I also want to pay tribute to the staff, the fans and the players at Sheffield Wednesday at this difficult time. Mr. Speaker, we've delivered the independent football regulator to stand up for fans and make sure clubs have fit and proper owners. The party opposite used to support that, but now they oppose it.
Gavin Robinson.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has a deep understanding of policing in Northern Ireland and the importance of it. He knows about the ongoing national security threat. Indeed, he knows about the additional costs of dealing with the legacy of our past. And he knows that the PSNI has been underfunded. He knows that the Northern Ireland Executive have rightly brought forward a stability programme for them. He knows that they are under strength, because New Decade, New Approach in 2020 suggested there should be 7,500 police officers in Northern Ireland. Today there are 6,200. But does he know that the Treasury did not look favourably upon a request to draw upon the reserves for a data breach cost of £120 million? Does he recognise that in Treasury terms that incident was unpredictable, it was unforeseeable, it's unaffordable? It matches the criteria that the Treasury have. To set aside that money in a year would be 10% of the overall PSNI budget. It is not affordable. Can I ask him, in engagement with the Chancellor, to think about this issue again and to ensure that our police service of Northern Ireland and the national security threat that they face is not hampered by in-year financial rules?
Well, can I thank him for raising this important issue, and I know it is of real concern to him. Can I reassure him that I am in regular contact with the Chief Constable, John Boucher, and the PSNI on this very issue, as he would expect. As he's aware, we provided a record settlement for the Executive, £19.3 billion per year on average. We also invested £113 million in additional security funding for the PSNI to help address specific security challenges. Now, whilst it's for the Executive to set the PSNI budget, I want to reassure him that our commitment is to keeping people safe in Northern Ireland.
Alan Strickland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm speaking on behalf of my constituents, Shannon and Tyler, who lost their 2-year-old son, Hudson, earlier this year. Worried about their son and calling 111, they were told he had gastroenteritis. In fact, Hudson had a twisted bowel and a few days later, after being rushed to hospital, tragically died. Mr. Speaker, Shannon and Tyler are full of praise for the NHS medical staff who worked so hard to save their son's life. They just wish they'd been offered an in-person appointment sooner, which might have given a more accurate diagnosis. They want Hudson's legacy to be better access to face-to-face NHS appointments for children under 5. So other families don't face this tragic situation, and their online petition on this matter has gained over 80,000 signatures. Will the Prime Minister join me in sending the best wishes of this House to Hudson's family? And will he ensure they meet a health minister to discuss their courageous campaign?
Well, can I thank him for raising this tragic case? And I'm sure I speak for the whole House in saying we send our sympathies and thoughts to Hudson's parents, Shannon and Tyler. And I'll make sure that they get the meeting that he's asking for. This is exactly why we're working to improve access to face-to-face appointments for those that want one. And to enable that, we've delivered the largest cash uplift for GPs in a decade, put over 2,500 GPs into general practice, and we're upgrading 1,000 surgeries to deliver 8 million more appointments.
James McMurdo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, earlier this week, I got to see the very best and some of the worst of our National Health Service. When my own daughter needed them, they were there. But when an 89-year-old gentleman in the restaurant I was eating in collapsed, it took over an hour and 15 minutes between my first call and the arrival of 2 exhausted paramedics. Basildon Hospital has just been downgraded to inadequate, the latest Care Quality Commission. Can I please invite the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, or the Prime Minister herself if he has time in his schedule, to come and visit Basildon with me so we can both thank them for the exceptional work they do, but also get to grips with the problems they're facing.
Well, can I thank you for raising this case and the 2 examples that he's given. The downgrade at Basildon Hospital is deeply disappointing. The Care Quality Commission has set out immediate actions for the Trust leaders to deliver improvements. Our decisions in government have seen £26 billion boost for our NHS, helping deliver over 5 million extra appointments. I would gently point out that he was elected representing a reform party that would dismantle our NHS and charge people to see their doctor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Reform say they stand up for the working class, but the truth is they never have. No. They voted to block the Employment Rights Bill again and again. So does the Prime Minister agree that it's only this government on the side of working people? It's Labour creating tens of thousands of jobs, like with our deal with Turkey. It's Labour getting rid of 0 hours contracts, and it's Labour protecting workers from unfair dismissal from day one.
I'm proud that we delivered the biggest upgrade to workers' rights in a generation, and the Tories and Reform vote against it at every turn, as they always do with any form of workers' rights and protections. And in relation to the deal that we struck on Monday, Mr. Speaker, with Turkey, that is a deal worth £8 billion, 20,000 jobs, 10 years of work in manufacturing with the typhoons. That is only possible because we're a trusted member of NATO, and Reform have been an absolute nightmare on defence because they would not be a trusted member of NATO because they're Putin friendly.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Targets for cancer patients beginning treatment within 62 days hasn't been met by any NHS trust for 10 years, a legacy of the last Conservative government. If this target had been met in every month of 2025, so far nearly 3,000 breast cancer patients would have started their treatment on time. Will the Prime Minister ensure that the National Cancer Plan, which I asked for a year ago, makes it possible for the 62-day target to be met, along with recruiting much-needed cancer specialists and replacing outdated equipment?
Well, I thank him for raising this, and I know this is personal to him. We are investing £600 million to improve diagnostic capacity and rolling out new radiotherapy machines, including in his local trust, I'm pleased to say. We have seen real improvements. 148,000 more people now have cancer diagnosed or ruled out within 28 days, but I acknowledge there is more to do on this. The National Cancer Plan will set out how we will go further and deliver the best care for every patient.
Mr. Speaker, the big 4 banks have been allowed to abandon our high streets, basically closing them with impunity Between 1999 and 2025, my constituency alone has lost banks at Guipehurst, Newbigin-by-the-Sea, Bedlington and Blyth. In this, Mr Speaker, is at the same time these banks made more than £40 billion profit in last year alone. They're absolutely drowning in cash. The manifesto pledge to roll out 350 banking hubs is to be welcomed, but its quirky, almost bizarre qualifying criteria needs detailed revision. Will the Prime Minister commit to a wholesale review of personal face-to-face banking, which would enable local residents and local businesses, alongside many vulnerable people, to access their own money in their own time on their own high street?
Well, can I thank you for raising this? And I know how important face-to-face banking is on our high streets. We have committed, as he says, to rolling out 350 banking hubs across the United Kingdom. Over 180 are already open. I want to reassure him that 350 is not the limit. While decisions over hubs are taken independently, they can be rolled out wherever a community needs one. And I'm happy to make sure relevant Minister follows up with details for him.
I will.
Mr Speaker, I'm proud that the last government introduced the triple lock and we're committed to keeping it. But from...
The problem is one or two you're trying to catch my eye. If we don't get through, you won't get a chance, might we?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It was a great achievement of the last government and we will be keeping it. But from April, pensioners with private pensions as low as £2 a month will be paying income tax for the first time. Now, at last year's budget, the Chancellor was clear that extending the freeze on personal allowances would breach their manifesto commitment. So will the Prime Minister prove the media speculation wrong, keep his promise and guarantee that there will be no extension to the freeze on personal allowances?
The freeze was introduced by them. That's why it's coming in next year.
Mr Speaker, the Honourable Member for West Suffolk, when he was an official, produced a devastating report on the Home Office. Reading it, it shows the department characterised by disarray and defeatism. There have been 12 Home Secretaries over the last 30 years, some better than others, but none have managed to get this department in order to deliver the services that people should expect in this country. Will the Prime Minister give the new Home Secretary the necessary resources and policy interventions to make sure that she can be successful?
Yes, she's bearing down on the challenges the Home Office, most of them inherited from the last government, and we will make the changes necessary, and I have every confidence in the Secretary of State to do so.
Baron of the House, Sir Edward Lee.
After all the hatreds in the world today, wasn't it a lovely moment to see the King and the Pope pray together in the Sistine Chapel? Doesn't it give us hope that these historic divisions can be resolved? And doesn't it give us hope that despite the fact that Ukraine and Gaza may seem intractable problems, if we have the will to preserve the freedom of all people to live in their own country, and if we have the will to have faith in our common humanity, these problems can be resolved and we can win through.
Can I agree with him? I thought the King and the Pope prayed together was an incredible message to the world and very, very powerful. And I agree with him that if we all work together, we can actually bring people together, notwithstanding the very many difficulties and challenges that poses around the world and in our own country. It's why, so far as we can, we should be uniting on national patriotic renewal in this country, rather than the toxic division that we see on some of the benches opposite.
Daniel Zeitner.
Mr Speaker, Cambridge is one of the most intensive science and innovation sectors clusters in the world, and that success is based on openness to talent. Now, at the moment, in many American universities, there are many well-qualified people pondering their futures. What a fantastic opportunity, but it is a global competition. So can I ask the Prime Minister what our government is doing to make their destination of choice the United Kingdom?
Yeah. Well, my honourable friend's constituency is just one example of why the United Kingdom is a world leader in educating and attracting the brightest minds. Our immigration white paper includes changes to make sure more of the world's best graduates and entrepreneurs start their careers and their businesses here. Mr. Speaker, we're also boosting our R&D sector with more than £86 billion, making sure we continue to attract the best and the brightest.
Alison Griffiths.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last weekend, I spoke to Paul, who runs Bar Humbug Sweets in Littlehampton. And yesterday, I heard from Matt, a tech entrepreneur whose British company employs thousands worldwide. Their businesses couldn't be more different, but they both told me the same thing. This government is piling on new taxes, regulation and costs that make it harder to create jobs, invest and grow. So when will the Prime Minister stop choking opportunity and start backing the people who create jobs in the first place?
Well, Mr. Speaker, our small business plan was widely welcomed by small businesses across the country, not least because of their input into it. But she complains about the measures we had to take at the last budget, including national insurance. It says today they still can't say whether they'd reverse them. They know nothing about the damage they did to our economy.
Janet Davey.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm wearing all black today, and that's to demonstrate my sorrow due to a fatal stabbing that took place in my constituency yesterday. Now, we all know that one death is one death far too many, but I've had 2 deaths in my constituency in the last few weeks. My community needs reassurance. Knife crime must end. Can the Prime Minister say what more his government is doing to tackle knife crime?
Well, can I thank you for raising these tragic cases which have a huge impact on families, friends and communities. And I know that she's a passionate and dedicated campaigner on this issue. Every single life that's lost to knife crime devastates communities, and that's why we've banned zombie knives and ninja swords and have strengthened controls on online knife sales. Mr. Speaker, we're also giving stronger powers for police in our crime and policing bill, which both the Conservatives and Reform voted against.
Glover.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had the recent privilege to visit Fitzwarren School in my Oxfordshire constituents, Didcot and Wantage, the only special school that we have, and see the excellent care and education that they provide. Given the urgent need for more funding for additional special schools and to enable special schools to spread their expertise to mainstream schools, what does the Prime Minister say to parents and education workers who are desperately worried by his government's decision announced last week to delay SEND reforms?
Well, I'm grateful for him raising this, and I think the broken SEND system is the issue that's been raised with me more frequently than any other issue at Prime Minister's questions. That's why we do need to review it. It's not working for any of those involved, particularly children and parents. It is important that we get it right, and insofar as we can, that we get a consensus about how we go forward, and that's what we're attempting to do.
Mr. Speaker, a 4th patient has entered the glioblastoma drug trial set up in memory of my late sister. Today, we are joined by Ben Trotman, a patient of a similar trial in 2022, funded by the John Moulton Foundation. Since then, Ben has married Emily, and in March they welcomed beautiful baby Mabel. Can I ask the Prime Minister when the National Institute for Health Research will spend the £40 million given in 2017 for trials on brain tumours? Or will glioblastoma patients always rely on the grief-stricken or philanthropist for life and hope?
Well, Mr. Speaker, can I begin by paying tribute to her sister Margaret, who was a guiding figure in the Labour Party, and the powerful legacy that she left in helping us to tackle brain cancer. We are determined to improve cancer survival rates and hit all NHS waiting times in relation to cancer, so no patient waits longer than they should. And that's why we're investing £1.5 billion in new surgical hubs and diagnostic scanners to help deliver over 30,000 more procedures and over 1.2 million diagnostic tests.
Final question, Caroline John.
Mr. Speaker. I recently met around 20 independent local traders in Totnes who are furious that the last bank in town will close in January and that Link have refused to consider a banking hub. My businesses and constituents, 1,100 of whom have signed a petition, deserve better. Now, the Prime Minister has just told the member for Blyth and Ashington that a banking hub can be rolled out wherever a community needs one. So will he now back my campaign, ask his ministers to write to Link and instruct them to grant a banking hub to Totnes and to review the eligibility of rural towns for such hubs so that we can keep our vital high streets alive? Thank you.
Can I thank her for raising this, and she'll have heard the answer I gave just a few moments ago. What I will ensure is that she gets a meeting with the relevant minister so she can put the case in relation to the banking hub in question.
That completes questions. We'll let the front bench change over. Right, we now come to the urgent question. Dame Priti Patel.
Mr. Speaker, to ask the Secretary of State for FCDO if she'll make a statement on the actions taken to secure the elimination of Hamas from Gaza and the preservation of the ceasefire.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the House will be aware of events over the last 24 hours in Rafah, including reports that Israeli strikes took place last night. Estimates of the death toll vary, but suggest that up to 100 people in Gaza have been killed. We understand these strikes followed an attack yesterday afternoon, where responsibility remains unclear. As the Prime Minister said earlier, we echo the Americans in calling for urgent de-escalation and on all parties to keep the commitments they have made in the ceasefire agreement. We are clear that Hamas must release the bodies of all remaining Israeli hostages. The immediate priority is to ensure unrestricted flow of aid into Gaza. The Israeli government must urgently lift restrictions on aid entering, and international NGOs must be permitted to operate in Gaza to provide the scale of support that is needed. Civilians cannot wait. This government is working closely with our partners to do everything we can to support the transition from the ceasefire to phase 2 of the peace plan. This includes the disarmament of Hamas, the deployment of a ceasefire monitoring mission, an international security force, and the implementation of transitional governance arrangements in Gaza. We are clear there can be no role for Hamas in the future governance of the Strip. In recent days, the Foreign Secretary has spoken to the UN Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordination, Tom Fletcher, the Egyptian Foreign Minister, and the Israeli Foreign Minister about the importance of opening more crossings and removing restrictions on aid. And as I told the House yesterday, Mr. Speaker, both she and I will be heading to the region shortly. On the 13th to 15th of October, I co-hosted with the Egyptian government and the Palestinian Authority the first conference to look at how we can leverage sustainable support to Gaza's reconstruction. Britain will continue to play our full part in support of the ceasefire and the wider peace initiative. There is not a moment to lose to get relief at scale to those in need and to make progress on the pathway to a lasting peace.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The situation in Gaza is fragile, and we all want the ceasefire to hold and endure, and for it to transition into a sustainable end to the conflict. But that requires the terms of the ceasefire being adhered to. The scenes of mass Hamas gunmen carrying out summary executions is sickening. Their continued hoarding and disruption of aid to starved Gazans is shocking. Their refusal to disarm is disturbing, and their failure to return bodies of the deceased hostages is distressing. They and their families deserve dignity of a proper burial. Their loved ones have already been through terrible, terrible pain and suffering. No more coffins should be released with the wrong remains, and this is a disgusting game that has to end immediately. So can the Minister explain what pressure is being exerted on Hamas by the UK government so they comply with the full terms of the agreement and release all deceased hostages? Yesterday it was reported that Hamas gunmen killed an IDF soldier, violating the ceasefire, leading to the targeted IDF action in response. What is the Minister's assessment of the threat Hamas poses? And what practical steps is the UK taking to support the disarming and elimination of Hamas and the terrorist infrastructure in Gaza? Yesterday, the Secretary of State said and told the House the UK has been proposing different ways to help in the process of decommissioning and disarming Hamas, using expertise we've built up over many years. So can the Minister now say what is Britain's specific role, as this is a unique situation that we see regarding Hamas, with terrorist infrastructure and threats funded by Iran across the region? What action is the government taking to rebuild its relationship with Israel, given the important partnership that we have with Israel? And on aid, what steps are being taken to increase getting aid into Gaza? And given the remarks by the US Secretary of State about UNRWA and its role in Gaza, what discussions have taken place with the United States administration about UNRWA's future and the implication for the UK following the government's decision to give it millions of pounds despite knowing some of these risks?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would say at the outset that we track events in Gaza incredibly carefully. I do not intend to give the House a running commentary on each and every individual incident that takes place. The situation remains very volatile and very messy. I hope not to disappoint honourable members if I avoid giving very specific answers on very specific incidents. There are structures now being put in place, including the CMCC, the Civilian Military Coordination Centre, which is playing a role in seeking to verify the facts on the ground where we can. That work obviously takes some time. The UK is making a contribution to it, but I won't wish to get ahead of that process from the dispatch box. What I will say is we have been absolutely clear on the threat that Hamas pose to Palestinians, to Israelis and to the wider world. That's why they're sanctioned as a terrorist organisation here. We are taking a range of measures with our partners to work through the very complicated but necessary steps, whether it's about transitional governance in Gaza, the security arrangements that need to follow, the international security force, and a whole range of other questions. I can assure the Shadow Foreign Secretary that we are deep in those discussions. We have been having them over the last few days, and we will have them in the region too. This is an incredibly complex piece of work, and we remain very focused on it. Mr. Speaker, just very quickly on aid, I would like to inform the House that there has been what appears to be quite a significant rate of aid going in particular through Kerem Shalom, which is very welcome, but the House will know of the centrality of the other crossings, particularly Rafah and the Allenby Bridge. They are not yet fully open. Aid cannot therefore flow in the volumes that we would wish to see them, and we continue to work with all our partners to try and see them reopened.
Blackburn.
Mr. Speaker, welcome the statement from my honourable friend. But let's say to him, though, it's fairly clear that the Israeli government only agreed to the peace deal because they felt they had to, not because they necessarily wanted to. And after all this time, we still haven't got aid flowing through into Gaza in the way we'd all want to see. So what further action can the government take to put pressure on the Israeli government to make sure that all the aid that's needed actually gets in and gets in quickly?
Madam Deputy Speaker, it's a vital question from my honourable friend who follows these things closely. As I said in my last answer, to get to the volumes that we need, we are going to need both Rafah and the Allenby Bridge to be reopened. It is welcome that there does appear to be an increase of aid through Kerem Shalom, both UN aid and private trucks, and it is vital that the Palestinian private sector, particularly in Gaza, is able to get goods in, restart the market and enable people to go about their normal lives. We will, as you would expect, continue to work with all of our partners until we see the reopening of those crossings.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson Callum Miller.
Madam Deputy Speaker, the ceasefire was a rare moment of hope despite the challenges ahead, and so we share the dismay that extremists on both sides continue to look for opportunities to restart the war. We feel the distress of hostage families being tortured by Hamas cruelty and the grief of those whose family members, women and children, die under IDF bombs. The fake recovery of bodies by Hamas, as evidenced by the Red Cross, is a cruel and despicable act. Yet we can also see that extremists in the Netanyahu cabinet who have no interest in peace nor in the rights of Palestinian civilians are straining at the leash to retaliate. It is this cycle of violence and suffering that we must break. So I ask the Minister, what steps has the government taken to work with regional partners to force Hamas to find and return the remaining hostage bodies and to disarm? And given the importance of maintaining President Trump's interest and attention, what conversations has the Minister held with US counterparts to ensure that the White House does not lose focus on the prize of peace through a two-state solution?
I can reassure the House, Madam Deputy Speaker, that the British government remains in very regular contact at the highest levels with the American government on these questions, and the American government, as I think is clear in recent days, remains very focused on these issues, which is to be welcomed and to be supported, as the honourable member says. He raised important points about the recovery of bodies as well. I can confirm that I have been in talks with many of my opposite numbers across the region, most recently my Qatari opposite yesterday, as has the Foreign Secretary, and we continue to make these points with force.
Nick Smith.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And could I thank the Minister for his answering of the question. Could I say what a great job he does over time at updating our chamber? He's been terrific through this difficult period. Can I, though, ask him more about the type of aid that he thinks our country needs to send into Gaza to support the people there?
Madam, I thank my honourable friend for his kind words. There are two areas where aid is going to be particularly vital. Of course, the immediate needs that the Gazan people have and the humanitarian programme to meet those needs. Most recently, in Sharm el-Sheikh, the Prime Minister announced a £20 million contribution focused on water, sanitation and health. But there is also a need for the sustainable reconstruction of Gaza. The message we hear so often from Palestinians is that they wish their own companies and their own private sector to be engaged in that endeavour. They don't simply wish to see the World Bank or the United Nations leading the charge. They too want to take agency of those questions, and that was one of the reasons we involved them so closely in the conference I held in October.
Kit Malthouse.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Once again, it is the children of Gaza who seem to be bearing the brunt of the violence, with reportedly 35 of them liquidated overnight in casual dropping of bombs in retaliation. Equally as shocking is to realise that there will be absolutely no accountability for these deaths whatsoever. Unlikely to be any investigation into the targeting or the intelligence that was used. No sense of any impunity or punishment for what is very obviously a significant crime. Allied to that, it's proven to be quite a handy distraction to the very significant violence and brutality that's taking place in the West Bank on a daily basis. So can I ask the Minister, please, given that we've now recognised Palestine as a sovereign nation, will there be any further measures to deter Israeli aggression on Palestinian soil?
Minister.
Madam Deputy Speaker, we've spoken on a number of occasions in this House about events in the West Bank, and we have announced 3 waves of sanctions, including at the most senior levels against the Israeli government. I want to reassure the House that we remain very much focused on settler violence. We are moving into the olive harvesting period, which, as the honourable member will know, is a period in which violence is often particularly high, and regrettably we are seeing similar trends this year, and I'll have more to say about that later in the day. In relation to his first point about individual incidents, I refer to my previous comments. It is really important at such a delicate moment for the ceasefire that we are as precise as possible, and that's why the CMCC is engaged in the way that it is.
Hannah Bacon.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
The International Court of Justice has called on Israel to allow aid into Gaza, announced its occupation of the Palestinian territories as unlawful and demanded the removal of troops. Does the Minister understand that so as long as there are boots on the ground and that UK arms are still sold to Israel, that there will not be the peace that is needed for the Palestinians unless they're allowed to determine their fate and to be free from the violence that they're continuing to face?
Minister.
I think the honourable member refers to the ICJ advisory opinion in relation to the occupied Palestinian territory. There has also, as the House will be aware, been another advisory opinion from the ICJ more recently in relation to aid accessing Gaza. So, assuming it's in relation to the first of those, we have taken very significant decisions since that advisory opinion, not least the recognition of a Palestinian state. And I just want to clarify for the House once again that no British weaponry is used in either Gaza or the West Bank, apart from subject to those measures in relation to F-35s that we've previously discussed.
Thank you,
Madam Speaker. The Minister quite rightly said that Hamas must disarm and there can be no place for Hamas in the future of Gaza. And yet, the White House appears to be licensing Hamas to conduct internal security operations. What conversation is he having with his US counterparts to reconcile the UK position, which he clearly outlined, and that of the US?
Minister.
As the honourable member knows, disarmament is usually a process. It takes time, it requires great complexity and very serious technical work. We want to ensure that Gaza is free of Hamas, that they are disarmed. That will take time, and that is the work that both us and the Americans are engaged in.
Noah Law.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Both in Gaza, where grassroots peace builders will face the immense task of reconciliation, and here at home, where debate has become dangerously polarised, the peace plan and a two-state solution remain the only credible path forward. And we must all be absolutely clear in condemning Hamas, who have no place in the future governance of a free Palestine, and the atrocities continuing to be committed by Prime Minister Netanyahu's far-right government. So, two wrongs, put simply, Madam Deputy Speaker, do not make a right. And I would urge the Minister to make a statement calling for unity at this fractious time.
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for the question. There obviously have been innumerable wrongs in the region in recent months, and what is important is that we now continue the work, move forward with the ceasefire into phase 2 and see the wider peace plan fully implemented.
Leila Moran.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Throughout this horrific 2 years, I have kept trying to make the case for the innocents, for the people who did not choose any of this, who are not responsible. It is completely unacceptable that Hamas has not released all of the bodies. And it is equally unacceptable that the Israeli authorities released 100 Palestinian bodies with just numbers. What is this government doing to help the Palestinian authorities identify all the bodies in both Israel and Palestine who have been returned, so that those families can grieve and the dead can get the dignity that they deserve?
Minister.
Madam Deputy Speaker, the honourable member speaks with personal experience, real force, and obviously a very long track record on these issues. My heart goes out to families on both sides. Mortuary processes are difficult in the best of times, and one can only imagine the agonies that they are facing. We're not aware of specific requests to us for support on mortuary services, but if there are some, I'm very happy to consider them.
Imran Hussain.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Let us be clear. Peace cannot exist under impunity. Weeks into the ceasefire, Israel has once again bombed Gaza, killing over 100 Palestinians, including over 35 children, as it continues its genocide. More than a year and a half after the International Court of Justice's substantial ruling, which frankly and shamefully our government has still to reply to, which made it absolutely clear any government allowing trade with Israel's settlement economy is complicit in sustaining its continued illegal occupation of the Palestinian territories. British companies continue to trade in goods and financial services with those settlements, undermining our obligation under international law. So can the Minister tell us, when will the government suspend the UK-Israel trade deal and end all trade linked to the settlements, or will he continue to sit back and allow this complicity?
Minister.
Madam Deputy Speaker, since the ICJ advisory opinion that's been referred to, I wouldn't want the House to have the impression that the British Government has done nothing. We have, at the centre of that advisory opinion, is the question of the status of the occupied Palestinian territory. We have been clear subsequently in recognising a state, what the status of that territory is. He raises important questions about the trade of goods with settlements. We do not accept trade with settlements on the same basis that we do trade with Israel. It is where British companies are doing so, they are in breach of the trading arrangements. HMRC will take an interest. They need to ensure that they know who they are trading with and in which territory. It is obviously difficult, as a whole range of nations and states have found, to ensure that if in settlements people wish to falsely label where the thing is produced, it is very difficult for others to then be able to determine. And I know he follows these issues very closely. He will no doubt be interested in the efforts of the Irish government in order to try and pass exactly the kind of legislation that he is describing and the very many difficulties that they have encountered in so doing. We are not in breach of our international obligations. If the honourable member would like to point me to some legislation which does what he says, which is in operation, I'd be grateful to see it. But I think this is one of those questions where we need to continue to work with our partners to ensure that the status of the occupied Palestinian territory, part of a Palestinian state, is understood by all.
Greg Smith.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. On top of the absolute imperative of Hamas releasing the remaining hostage bodies, on top of ensuring Hamas not only completely disarms but is removed from all governance in Gaza, will the Minister agree with me that there also needs to be a widespread de-radicalisation programme to undo the damage that has been done by innocent children in Gaza being taught in their textbooks, some of which were funded through UNRWA as an uncomfortable truth, to hate Israel and to hate Jews? That de-radicalisation must happen also.
Minister.
There has been much work done in recent months, including under this government, in relation to the curriculum in Gaza. I'm aware of the concerns that have been raised about it. The funding to UNRWA that we have provided, which the Shadow Foreign Secretary referred to, included specific provision for ensuring that all of the reforms identified in the Kelowna report, including in relation to curriculums, were followed through, and we continue to engage with UNRWA on those questions.
Lizzie Collins.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. My colleagues have already asked about the current horror in Gaza, so I'm going to pivot to the longer term. Before this crisis, we saw decades of legal settlements on Palestinian territory. So I welcomed the government's sanctions on extremist settlers and Israeli ministers. But I don't want us to lose sight of this issue, Madam Deputy Speaker. So can I ask the Minister to consider what further steps he can take, including trade restrictions, to combat illegal settlements?
Minister.
Madam Deputy Speaker, my honourable friend is absolutely right. There has been a significant increase in settlements and violence associated with those settlements. This is a continued problem, and we will continue to work at it alongside our partners to try and see this terrible trend reversed.
Stephen Flynn.
I get the impression that the Minister shares my despair at what feels like the constant impediments to real progress that are being put in place, both by the impunity of Hamas but also by the impunity of Benjamin Netanyahu's genocidal regime. But I am curious. The United States of America have indicated that the response from Israel last night was proportionate and they backed the action. Is that a view shared by His Majesty's government?
Minister.
For the reasons, Madam Deputy Speaker, that I said earlier, I'm reluctant to be drawn in a day-by-day commentary on the actions of both sides. What is key is that we keep the ceasefire going. That is what the Americans have been clear is still in place. This is going to be difficult. The events of the last 24 hours have been difficult. I am sure that we will have further difficult days ahead. This is not a straightforward path. I won't be drawn on an individual instance today if he doesn't.
Stella Creasy, after which I will call Steve Darling. Stella Creasy.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. But further to my honourable friend's answer, it's now 19 days since October the 10th, and it's very clear there are still hostage families who cannot grieve for a loved one. There are still people starving in Gaza because there is not enough aid, and now we are seeing the West Bank deteriorate. Now, what we saw in the last 24 hours, the Vice President argued that skirmishes are somehow inevitable. With the greatest will in the world, the death of 35 children and possibly more is not a skirmish. If the international community can do anything, it is to be involved in the detail of ensuring that the ceasefire holds. So if he won't tell us what the government's response to it will he at least tell us what possible justification the Israelis have given for the latest incident?
Minister.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I don't wish to spend too much time at the dispatch box repeating the statements of others. I'm sure the honourable member who follows this closely will have seen what the Israeli government provided as justification. I'm sure she will have seen the statements from Hamas denying that they were involved in the shooting in Rafah and the considerable uncertainty, I think, that has surrounded some of those events. The key question here for the British government is whether or not we think the ceasefire can hold, whether or not we think we can make the progress, all of the progress that she is describing on reopening the aid crossings, disarming Hamas, the transitional governance arrangements. I am not for 1 second taking away from the gravity of these incidents. Lives have been lost, children have been killed. But the role that stands before the British government at the moment is to ensure that we do not have a breakdown of this ceasefire. That does not mean we do not get into the detail. We have a Major General in the CMCC who is part of the efforts trying to ensure that when threats to the ceasefire, when violence occurs, we understand who and why, but I won't give running commentary from the dispatch box.